Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Shouting into the Void with myself and Liam. Is this way? We discuss Doctor Who on a very regular basis, that regular basis being every week. Episodes of Doctor Who specifically at this point, at least. From 2005 onwards, we're yet to touch Classic Who because that is a very big ocean that we are yet to swim in.
One day. I think that'd be so much fun to
I'm
do.
sure. I'm sure it will be, but I think there's a lot more to watch when it comes to that. And luckily, at the minute, we only have to go through 45-ish minute episodes, and we've been doing that for over a year, and that means that we're now into series 4, and let me check episode 8, Silence in the Library. This is approaching the end of series 4. We're with David Tennant and Catherine Tate as the Doctor and Donna. This is also the episode that introduces River Song. The first time release order wise, but not the first time chronologically, I guess. Depends who you look at it by.
Yeah, chronologically for her, certainly not. But...
Yes, so this is the end of her life, but the start of the Doctor's interactions with her,
that he can remember.
Yeah,
Thank
that
you,
they both can remember, because there is a
Yeah.
line in this that whatever. But sure, let's just ignore Big Finish as not canon for this episode.
At this point, she didn't have Big Finish stuff, so it's fine.
No, exactly. But yeah, it sees the Doctor and Donna arrive at this planet-sized library which has books galore. But there's nobody there. That's because they've all been eaten. Oh, sorry, they've not been eaten, actually. They've been saved because they were going to get eaten by...
That's because nobody uses libraries nowadays in 2022.
Exactly.
There's not going to be using it in the far future.
I mean, I do have a comment about people using library, but we'll come on to that. Yes, why is the library quiet? This archaeological expedition has also arrived. So why are they there? What's the point in them being there? Why are we there? What's the Bastion Armada? And how are our companion and team duo gonna get out of this? Who knows? We'll find out next week because it's a two-parter. So a lot going on. But what did you think of the episode overall?
I really enjoyed it. I always remember liking the story quite a bit. And I know, it's very, very well regarded in fandom as well. And yeah, this was a great first part. I think it took a bit to get going, but once it did, kind of didn't stop. And they had some great kind of character moments in there, I felt, particularly with Donna, I think was kind of a big standout for me. And yeah, kind of a little bit of a spooky one. I like the concept of the villain very, very much, which we will get on to. And yeah, it's just kind of brutal at times, intriguing at times. It's weird coming back to this now, kind of knowing pretty much all there is to know about River, seeing like her first appearance and being like, so this is bizarre because I can remember my cousin came over for a sleepover when this episode aired. It was that Saturday night. We watched this and we're like, what? We thought I missed something. So we're like, who the fuck is this? Well, I didn't say it then, but yeah. So it is kind of funny revisiting it now, and I kind of do get nostalgic for that. Just knowing where things kind of go. So yeah, really great episode. I thought great first part. Obviously, a lot of the enjoyment will hinge on how it concludes, which I really can't remember my thoughts and feelings of for the most part. I'm like, how does 45 minutes get filled with this again? I think a lot of it is like Donna focused, really. So I am intrigued by that. But yeah, I liked the characters in this one. I liked the kind of setup we were getting. I like the mysteries, I like the villain. And yeah, a very strong first part for me.
Yep, basically the same. I thought I was watching this and I was like, oh, this is very, very tense and very like atmospheric, and I like it. There was the mystery surrounding not just the library, but the girl. What role is she playing in all of this? Why are we seeing a mid-2000s house with a girl in it looking at the TV? And then you just get this sense of foreboding and danger, and you feel that, because again, it's the thing that Doctor Who does very well, where it turns something so normal and something you don't think about into something that you're like, I need to be scared of that
shit.
now. Yeah. Something that Moffat has obviously done previously with the Weeping Angels and statues. This time he just does it with shadows, which is great. And obviously saves a lot on the budget as well.
Yeah, lighting budget was
yeah,
immediately saved.
Yep. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I liked a lot of the characters. I like where it's going. Like you, I can't remember much about the second half or how it's going to sort of end up and how I feel about that. I mean, I know the sort of the main conclusions, but I couldn't tell you much of the episode, and I couldn't have told you much about this episode, to be fair, either, because it's been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah, me too.
And maybe that played a part in why I felt so tense and sort of nervous, I guess, about what's going to happen, because it's been a while since I've seen it. And I was like, oh, who dies now? Does they die? I was like, who's next to get eaten?
Who's next to go?
Is it the girl? Is it the chicken bone? Who knows? It's going to be one of them. But yeah, I did quite enjoy it. And with that, we'll get into our positives and negatives. If there's a very abrupt cut, it's because Liam is waiting for a food delivery, which has been already delayed. So we'll see how it goes.
I think that's just going to be the new norm for us recording these.
Yeah, unfortunately, but it's fine. We'll see.
If it's that tension we're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
We're just providing it in real life.
I might have to do some editing, and I'm like, oh no,
Connor's going to have to edit this.
Oh, please, no.
Take time out of his life.
Oh god, it's just I just can't spare the minutes. It's just unacceptable, if I'm honest. But yes, I will. I'll send a written complaint.
You interrupted my YouTube videos.
Yeah, I dare you. But yes, we do normally have 3 positives and 3 negatives. I struggle with my negatives this week, but I do have 3.
Me too.
I do have quite a few positives, so I'm sure. Well, I say I'm sure we'll spend more time on the positives. We probably won't. We'll probably blaze through the positives as usual, and then stick onto the negatives,
and then somehow just moan about the negatives, even when we don't have any.
Amazing. Well, I'll let you go first. And what's your first one? It could be that we're quite similar, but I'll let you go first.
Oh, well, that's very kind. My first one is the Bastion Armada.
Say,
Skelly boys, love this. Shadow boys. Yeah, just the idea of them, I think, is so cool. Ever since the episodes aired, whenever I've seen Dust in Sunbeams, I've always thought of Doctor Who. Like, it's just a written response in my mind now. So I think that's kind of the side of something being quite iconic. And just the idea of shadows being alive. Not every shadow, but any shadow is bloody terrifying, because you just never know. How they're represented with like the chicken bone just immediately getting eaten, and what happens to Miss Evangelista, her outfit and everything just getting completely shredded. And then just the whole spacesuit design is cool anyway, especially knowing where River ends up going. She's in spacesuits quite a bit in her story, so I like that we kind of see her in a similar sort of getup. But yeah, that kind of costume, but then the skeleton in it just moving about, such a cool kind of physical visualization for it, something to kind of run away from, something for kids to pretend to be in the playground, which they certainly were in my school. A mask to print out in Doctor Who magazine or Doctor Who Adventures, whatever it was, of a skeleton. And yeah, the idea of like the looping ghost thing kind of ties into the horror of them quite well. So I like how simple technology, Bastion Armada have kind of somehow made that creepy. They didn't mean to, but that's really cool. And yeah, saves on budget for the most part, because you can't see a lot of the threat. But well, apart from CJ shadows, I suppose. But yeah, I think it's something that we're so normalized seeing with shadows, given kind of a life force and an entity. And it's just such a neat idea. I think it's very well kind of executed in this one. Hopefully they kind of continue on with that in the next part. But for now, at least, they are quite creepy. I love how they're kind of presented in this first part.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same, not necessarily with the dust and the sunbeams, but every time I see somebody with 2 shadows, I'm like, whoa, you're gonna die.
You're dead.
Which is obviously very fun when I'm watching football at night and there's like 4 spotlights, they've got 4 shadows on. I'm like, oh. But that's always been in my head. It's just this. I think this monster has combined the Weeping Angels and the Empty Child for Stephen Moffat.
Yeah.
It's something that was so normal that you don't think about, and it could be, again, not everything, but any of it for shadows. It's done the Weeping Angels for shadows, but at the same time, it's also given us a monster with a catchphrase that chases after you.
Mhm.
And I think that, it's quite smart that he's managed to sort of merge two of his like iconic, or at least at this time, his iconic monsters into one, and it still be a unique thing that has, I say stood the test of time. I'd say it's still an iconic image to have that skeleton
Mhm.
skull in the spacesuit, but it's not really a villain that you could bring back time and time again, because it's not exciting to watch shadows,
Yeah,
is
I
it?
don't know how much more you could do with them. I mean, I
Yeah.
think that adventure game did a good job when they were in the adventure
Yes.
games,
Yeah.
because it took me so long to get through that because I was so scared of
So
them.
scared. But yeah, I mean that, whether they last or not, whether they can come back or not, it doesn't matter, because I think they're used very well in this.
Yeah,
They're just an interesting idea, and it just makes everything a lot more tense, because it could be anything, and you're constantly looking at the screen like, oh, be careful. And yeah, and just the fact that they're so brutal in their devouring of flesh, um, especially because it's like second, not even seconds, as the doctor said, it's less than
yeah,
a
that
second.
I had
It's like,
forgotten about that. And she's like, we heard it like a few seconds ago, and
yeah,
the doctor's like, it took less than that. I'm like,
yeah.
oh,
I was like, oh
oh,
Christ.
oh my Christ, this is quick.
Yeah, well, yeah,
Apart from the ghosting, but yeah,
yeah, but you can't really feel the ghosting.
no, it's
And then I
fine.
mean that kind of ties into it as well. The fact that they use this technology, so they've got, it adds to the strangeness of it, although not necessarily the Bastion Armada controlling it. It adds to the sort of uniqueness of the villain,
Yeah,
and I think we might get more of that next week, but not this week. But
indeed.
yes, so what is your second positive?
uh, Miss Evangelista's death, that whole kind of reveal scene with that. Oh boy, that was probably my favorite individual scene in the episode. And it's funny kind of thinking that, because I have a fun fact about it a bit later on. Because originally we weren't going to get it. So yeah, that was really great scene. I think a big highlight for me was Donna in that. I think Catherine Tate was fantastic in that scene. Her response to being like, "This is bloody awful," like the worst thing she's ever seen. Just the idea of the data ghost. They obviously kind of this is their introduction to it, and we know that becomes important again with the reveal of like proper Dave dying as well, and then next week with River. But yeah, just how brutal it is that she just wanders off, because they've established that no one really listens to her because they think she's dumb. She really is dumb because she just goes off on her own. So self-fulfilling prophecy. And then seconds flat, her suit's torn to pieces. She's a skeleton, no flesh left on the bone. And yeah, just the slow realization of what's happened to her. Everyone then feeling bad when she's like, "It's the nice woman there. Don't tell the others." That's so awful. And they should feel bad, because how dare
Yes,
you?
yeah.
Even though it is absolutely hilarious that she ejected herself twice thinking it was the bathroom.
Yeah,
But still,
it's funny, but don't laugh. It is funny.
Yeah, it's funny, but don't laugh at it. How dare you? But yeah, Donna's reaction to that is awful as well. And I like the moment when the doctor like comforts her a bit, puts her hand on her shoulder, and River wanting to give her the respect for her last moments, when Dave's like, "Can we just?" And then when she starts looping, it's the time. But ice cream, also a big mood. So I hope those are my last words as well.
Yeah.
But just everything, I thought it was very well set up with the technology and stuff. Great showing just how quick the Bastion Armada are. Basically, you're fucked if they are anywhere near you. And yeah, just a really good, poignant moment for only the plot, because it showcases how great the Bastion Armada are. But it's a great character moment for Donna, I think, as well, just showing how empathetic she's become for the people, and a nice payoff to the little scene between them earlier on. So yeah, really good stuff, and of course sets up Miss Evangelista's role in the next episode as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh no.
Can't wait for that negative.
But yeah, I do agree. I think because obviously this is where we see the threat of the Bastion Armada. Before this, it's just a case of, well, we need to leave kind of thing. But now we see, oh, that's why we have to leave. Okay then. Yeah, and obviously it does wonders for Donna. As I've mentioned before, this series, it showcases the difference between Donna and previous companions, and how they're, because obviously Martha, although caring for other people, is more in the sense of a medical phrase, so she's less involved personally. Rose just hates everyone. so never mind. But Donna gets attached to like almost everyone she meets, and then it hits harder for her emotionally, which I do like to see, especially when that's the whole point of the scene, is that it's quite a heartbreaking death.
Yeah, and compared to the Donna we first met as well, who was very kind of selfish and me.
Yes, especially. Yeah, I do agree. Great scene. But my second positive is the mystery of River Song. I didn't quite know how to phrase this. Obviously with it's not really a mystery because we know pretty much everything. But just at this point when anything can happen, I think is such a unique concept for a character. And it just shocks me that they don't do it more with Doctor Who.
Yeah,
it's like they did it this, and then they did it in Flux with
Claire.
Not even. They didn't even really do it with Claire because she wasn't.
They didn't. No.
She wasn't from the future or anything.
I had a vision of you, so I knew who you were.
So it shocked me that they haven't done it more. Maybe they just want to keep it a unique one character thing. Maybe just other. Well, I mean, I say other writers. Maybe just Chibnall's not wanted to do it because obviously Russell had 4 episodes after this or whatever it was. So I think to have this kind of idea of somebody that is, well, for us, we're meeting for the first time, but has had this relationship with the Doctor before that we are yet to see. I think it's such a nice way to keep the show together as a long thread, because it connects. River Song connects 10 to 11. Other things do, but considering that there's not necessarily everything the same from 4 to 5, having River Song in this one to connect forwards, I think really helps. Especially with everything else changing, with the companions and the TARDIS and the Doctor, everything else changing, to have the one connection. It's similar with Jack coming back for 13, to have that connection all the way back to now. It just helps with the continuity of the show, and it's just the potential that's there. I think I like her as a character, although sometimes it borders on sexual harassment. So not very good in the workplace. But that's the character. I knowing where she's been and what's happened and where she was before this with Capaldi, all that, I think it just adds more layers into. She knows she's dying at this point, and knowing that as the audience, we can see that in her acting, which I think is great for rewatchability. Obviously, it also adds to the depth of her not knowing who Donna is, and it's leading into what's going to happen to Donna. Then is she going to die? Is it just going to be another couple of regenerations until we see River, so that if she carries on, she might just have fallen off naturally. It just all adds up, and I really like it. Whether I like what does happen when we see the story, I don't know. We'll come on to that when we come on to it, but I do like the potential it has now, which is excellent, and I credit to Stephen Moffat for creating that, to be fair.
You're feeling all right?
Oh, I know, right? I do like, to be fair, I think
I know it's kind of a bit that you don't like Stephen Moffat, but for his writing for Russell, I think he's spot on. For his writing for his own, when he's showrunner, I think it's a bit less, but that's probably down to more of the case of he has more responsibility for others, so therefore he can't solely concentrate on his. But when we come back onto that in Series 5, it could be that I feel completely different. So you never know.
We'll see.
It's been 12 years, so you never know.
And I've stayed away from it while we've been doing this, so I'm literally going completely fresh. So in which case, what is your third?
Yes, indeed. My third is the supporting characters, mainly Riv and her team. I do also have a negative surrounding them at the minute, but I think that's something part 2 will probably resolve. But I just think the dynamic between all of them, I think everyone kind of has their place established very, very well, considering how quickly things happen, and there's not like that much time to spend with each one individually, but you understand the dynamic straight away. I think all the actors are really good in it, even like little glimpses of all the characters you get. I think you kind of you can get a sense of who these people are, what they're like.
Anita.
I'm Anita.
I hate the delivery of the name. That's just always stuck in my head.
You just don't like
I just
Anita
don't like
said in an
and
accent.
Anita. It's like, oh,
I
stop
quite
it.
like her accent.
I mean, I have no issue with the accent. It's the delivery of the line.
Anita.
Yes.
Anita.
Anita. Lanai, not an E.
Oh, she's gonna get
I assume at least.
Anited in the next one.
Oh.
Spoilers. But anyway, yeah, I think, you know, obviously River is the main one of that lot that we spend time with in this episode. But I think everyone does have a nice little moment or two to themselves at some point or the other. But yeah, I enjoy just spending time with those characters and seeing what they're up to. And you know, it helps, I think, as well, that it's not the cliche, oh, they don't believe the doctor, you know, because River has that history with him. She's like, I trust him, you do this, you do that. And then some people will listen to River. Obviously, you need the person who's like, no, which we get with Lux, of course. But I like that most of them just go along with it straight away. I think that makes them a lot more likable. And you kind of need them to be likable because you're going to kill most of them. So I think that helps establishing that. And yeah, I think for considering how many of them there are, obviously some do kind of get a bit lost in particular this episode. I do think they're a very well established kind of dynamic, and I am kind of rooting for them and care about them. So I really enjoyed seeing that kind of little group.
Yep. My third is also the cast, the supporting cast. Yeah, I agree. I think you see everything. I think proper Dave is obviously the pseudo leader of the group, if it wasn't River, or at least that's what he's sort of set up to be. Unfortunately, doesn't make it. I like the scene where the books are flying everywhere and like they're having the quick back and forth between him and the doctor. I thought that was very nice and shows sort of the immediate bond there. Obviously for Evangelista, you see that she wants to help, but they just don't want it, and you get that empathy for her. And then it shows the hierarchy as well, that there's this core group, and then you've got Lux, who is just sort of there to make sure it goes right. And it's like they're not necessarily stereotypical, but everybody has sort of a role to play, I think. Even when we move on to the mystery girl aspect of it, I think we're given enough to be curious, but obviously we're not explained because that's not for now. That's left ambiguous for the whole point of next week. So as long as everything comes in next week perfectly fine, I'll be happy. But yeah, I just think it was very well cast. There wasn't, you know, sometimes when we have a supporting cast, we have some actors that aren't the best in them. But I think everybody in this one is fairly decent, and there wasn't one where I was like, never mind, except for the delivery of Anita. But other than that, yes, the cast is great. So, have you got any other positives?
I love the nodes. I think they're great. It's such a cool idea, like the dead person's face, and they select a face that you think you're gonna like. Because obviously that's good setup for the cliffhanger with Donna and everything. But I just, the fact that someone like donated their face to be used on this thing is horrible. It's so good, and the simplicity of the design I think really works. Yeah, and then it obviously leads into, you know, for next week, you know, they're getting the faces from where they've been saved. So these are all faces of people that were in the library, which I quite like. Although it's a very strangely placed node for the Donna reveal. It's like in the middle of the aisle, and I'm like, you're blocking the books. It's a big place. You need to get lost. I wonder if they move around. That'd be funny. Yeah, just zoom. I'd love a scene where one just awkwardly like moves away after it stops speaking to them, and they just have to watch it for ages. It just goes into the shadow and the face gets eaten. Could you imagine? But like, you know, at least have it like at the end of the aisle, not blocking the book. That was the only. I wonder if that was more like the camera angle thing. They definitely couldn't have it be there. Definitely was because of the. That'd be so funny if like they were shooting it, you could just see a crew member like stood on the side behind it, so they didn't get spotted. Oh, please. Yeah, that does happen. Apparently, there is a crew member that's slightly hidden in Love and Monsters that we didn't spot. Like, really? in the Peter Kay reveal scene, it's like a crew member like stood in the back like corner. Right. And it's like full view, and you're like, what? Like you can see that surely, but. Never mind. Yeah, the node's great. I quite like the mystery aspects. As we mentioned, you know, the mystery surrounding the little girl and how she relates to the library, and the mystery around what happened in the library in the first place and what it means by how can they be saved but no survivors. I think that's a nice little setup.
And as mentioned before, just the tension throughout the episode as well, sort of the constant threat of something could go wrong and these people could all die at any minute. I thought was quite nice, and especially at the start when the lights go out one by one and it comes up to them, I thought was quite nice. And really,
I love that Donna just kicks the door open.
Yeah,
boyfriends, you need the element of surprise. Oh, it's too salty.
But unfortunately, that does bring us on to negatives for the episode. I had two, but I've got one which is kind of a biggie, and then two that are little ones, and the third one was very I guess I have to write it.
Yeah, I've got one main one, but again, I'm kind of okay with all of mine. I did struggle quite a bit.
My first one then is the consistency of being careful of where the shadows are.
Okay.
Because they a whole thing of, don't cross the shadows, but then when they're at Miss Evangelista's body, the shadows they're just all over the place. And then maybe you could play it, maybe you could just make that into your head canon that, that's where Proper Dave was infected and that's how he got it. But I think it's implied that he was sat on the table where the Bastion Armada were under, so that's how they got him. But it's just, it's a similar thing to the Weeping Angels in Flux. It's such a whole thing of you need to keep your eye on them, you need to stop, you have to not blink, and then all of a sudden the actors or the director forget that's what we should be focusing on, and then nobody looks at them for a minute and nothing happens. It's similar here where it's be careful of the shadows, don't let anything cross, but then as soon as the plot needs you to forget about that or it isn't important, the characters forget that's the thing. I think it kind of helps that they say that it could be any shadow, not every shadow, so you've got the argument of, well, it's not everyone, but when it plays such a crucial role, it's you need to be aware of that. Everyone should be social distancing, literally. And everyone should be facing the same way so that the shadows, they should all be in line so the shadows go the same way. They shouldn't be in a group where they can cross. But that doesn't make for good TV if you set up like that. So I can accept it, but it's just, you make it such a big thing, at least have the consistency for it when you're showing it. But I can deal. So what's your first negative?
The scenes are necessary. I don't mind the actors or the characters. I just don't care about the scenes with the little girl.
Yep. Yeah, that's fair.
I might just go back to the others, please. And again, they're necessary because they do get the payoff and it's fine. And they're not bad scenes in the slightest. I just
where she finds a secret remote compartment. You're like, oh
yeah, oh my. I just kept zooming in on her face. I'm like, I don't know. It's not even the actress. I think the actress is actually, for child actress, I think she's quite good.
Yeah.
I just find that little girl so bloody annoying. I always have. I don't know why. I think what really steered it for me is part 2 when she's like, "Shut up, Dad."
Oh yeah. Turns
Daddy, Dad, you fucking deleted
him. Yeah.
But still, that's for next week.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just, again, they're not bad. It's fine, but I would just rather be with the characters I'm really, really liking. And it's a shame because Colin Salmon's fantastic. He's such a good actor. I like him as Dr. Moon. Although we could have nearly had some super big names, which we will go on to.
I think Dr. Moon is what saves those scenes, I think, for me.
Yeah.
Because he's just got such a calming voice, I think is what it is.
He's got such a good voice.
And that's the whole point of him, obviously.
He needs to do audiobooks or something if he doesn't.
He almost
does. The dad is something and nothing as a character, really, because he literally gets wiped in the next one to his manner. But again, they're not bad scenes by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just whenever it goes back to, I'm like, oh, let's get back to the Doctor and Donna.
I think especially because they kind of link it with the security drone, but then that never plays into it again, I don't think. Not in this episode, at least. It's it's there, and then it's others are coming, and then they just forget about the drone. It's it was literally telling you stuff. Why don't you just look at that?
It's it's alive. Okay, bye.
Yeah, see you later. Bye. Get eaten. Bye.
Yeah, so it's a bit like that, and I think maybe it's just because at this point, for sure, it's purposely confusing. You don't understand what's going on with it, and it will obviously get some good payoff in the next part. But at this point, I'm just but no. You talk about the library every other sentence, little girl. I'm like, I just want to see it. Let's go back there, please.
Yeah.
So yeah, it again, I can deal with it because it's necessary and the scenes are fine. But I need some negatives. So
yep, fair enough.
I do think that slows it down a bit.
Yeah, all right. I do get what you mean, and hopefully the payoff will be worth it next week. My sort of second one, and this is where I'm starting to scrape the barrel, is in this whole planet-sized library, there was only just over 4,000 people visiting that day.
I thought that. I did think that.
I'm like, sorry, you make a whole point of everything is here. People still love books, yet only 4,000 people are on this planet-sized library. And like, it wouldn't have been a big thing, but it just took me out of it, especially when they give you such the big million number of Bastion Armada.
Yeah, it must have been like 5 minutes before closing.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it was a Sunday, like you know,
it really was a Sunday.
But, it just feels like, you know, it's so far in the future. It doesn't matter if people aren't interested in books as much. There will be more than 4,000 people in the universe that would want to travel to this library.
It's a library planet, there'd be more people.
But again, it's just, that's a very nitpick, but it was noticeable enough to take me out of the episode for a minute and go, hang on a minute, 4,022. I was like, that's not that many people.
Yeah,
like,
I will admit that did cross my mind as
well.
Like
1% of that of that group is already back in the library now with this expedition. So that's not a big size. You know, football stadiums hold more than that. Even our local football stadium holds more than that. So it's ridiculous. But just again, it's not a big deal. I can deal with it. But it just feels like a very strange number.
Especially when you could have just written anything.
You could have written a million people. Yeah. But then I guess it's hard to show a million people returning next week.
Yeah, that's what I would have thought.
That must be the reason. And then it also slims down the odds for Donna meeting the bloke when they come back or whatever. But,
also true.
But either way, still, it just took me out of it. So that's why it's in the negatives. So what is your second negative?
Some characters feel a bit left in the shadows. So yeah, this is kind of
Other Dave,
my supporting characters kind of thing. Other Dave and Anita, I think, are my two big ones. I'm like,
Anita.
You know, I like Anita. I like the character well enough, and you do get kind of a sense of them. I'm not a big fan of the Other Dave idea anyway. It's a bit like, yeah. Although, he's done well for himself. He was in Black Widow, that guy. So good for him.
He's
the guy who like gives her the jet and stuff.
He was the guy that seemed to know Black Widow for whatever reason, but we've never seen him before.
He was convenient plot man.
Yes.
But at least he's doing well for himself in Year of Our Lord.
Yeah.
So yeah, it doesn't go well for him in the next episode, but still. But yeah, we don't really get that much of those two, I think, in particular. But they're likable enough, so I can kind of deal with it. And they're still a part two. And I know for sure Anita gets some really good stuff in part two, and I think Other Dave gets a few moments as well. So I think a lot of that will be rectified for the second part, so I can kind of deal with it. But I need some negatives, so I do think those two are a bit left behind in particular.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't really disagree. The only thing I can remember Other Dave doing is sealing that door, and Anita's most memorable bit is her saying Anita. So
Anita.
What can you say? My third one, and this was one I really scraped the barrel for, is as much as I like her there, and the scenes that she's in is good. Why is Evangelista on the team? Do they explain why she's there?
Eye candy.
Because she's got no skills.
I would say, if I had to guess, they could probably manipulate her into paying her next to nothing, and she's just a cheap hire because Stratman likes money.
Look, when the target optimization comes out, she's
a serial killer.
Yeah, she's gonna have killed the real Evangelista to get on there.
Yes,
she's just playing dumb to try and go and find something in the library,
secret scheme,
which is why she goes off by herself. I don't know.
She faked her own death.
Yeah, basically. But yeah, and it was sort of there when they said that she's stupid and she injected herself twice. I'm like, so how is she on the team? How does she even get past the interview?
How do you pass training if you inject yourself?
I just don't get how she was there. I get it's for a slight comedy to have the slight, the empathetic scenes with Donna and all that stuff, but it just doesn't make sense. It's not like she won I'm going to enter the lottery and take a risk to go to this library place. they just needed to give something there to explain why she was with the team. Maybe she's dim overall, but maybe she has some specific knowledge about the library or something like that. Maybe she's looking for her dad or someone that was at the library. Give her just something to why she's there. But it just feels like, why would you, of all the people to take for the team, why would you take somebody that clearly cannot help you and you do not want to help you because you are worried she'll do something wrong? It does make sense. But again, I needed a final negative, and if I'm really nitpicky, then that for me is just one of them.
Yeah,
never mind. So what is your third negative?
I would say, I think it does take a little bit to get going. There's my other one. It's 11 minutes before River and Co show up, and I think that's when the episode really gets started. I think a good chunk of the little girl scenes I think are nearer the start, so that kind of makes it like, okay, get onto it. I think that's because we're coming back to something I've already seen, so I think first time viewing it's fine because it's all set up and stuff. You don't know what's going on, but I'm just like, I want to get to the bit where River and all that show up, and so there's a bit of that. And the Doctor and Donna wander around the library for quite a bit near the start as well before things tie back into the pre-credits stuff. So I think it just takes a bit to get going, but again, it's fine because the scenes we get aren't bad at all. But I needed stuff to say, so there you go.
That's fair enough. Yeah, I think they just needed to set things up, didn't they? I think they probably could have trimmed down the library books thing when they're like, oh, although I like it, they're like, oh, the books could be alive.
Yeah,
and they're like,
I think they probably would have cut a lot of that out, but in my research I did find this episode ran quite short, so that's probably why I just left all that kind of stuff in.
Wow.
So it would be more of a crime, I think, if this wasn't a two-parter. So
yeah, definitely. Well, we don't really spend that long on the negatives, I guess, because we both together out. I assume we don't have any.
The bottom of the barrel.
Assume we don't have any additional negatives then.
I don't know.
No, excellent. Well, in which case we will go on to your fun facts.
Hooray!
Fun facts.
Fun. Okay, let's have a look here. So, Stephen Moffat and Rusty Davies came up with the name River Song while joking together about early title ideas for episodes, inspiring him to create a character by the same name. So that's how the name River Song was birthed.
I wonder what episode they were talking about. Boomtown.
Boomtown. No, I doubt it. Transmission was delayed by a week because of the Eurovision Song Contest.
Yay!
Which happened with the Bastion Experiment being delayed with Series 3. Rusty Davies considers this story scarier than Blink, which maybe has some truth to it, depending on the view, I guess.
I think shadows are more common than statues, so maybe that's where it's come from.
But a statue in the shadows, then you just screwed. This is the 50th episode of revived Doctor Who.
Yay!
Hooray! A landmark. Well done. That doesn't include the Children Need Special and stuff, but they're not official anyway. When Dr. Moon and the girl's father rush to her side when she collapses, a plastic tag reading Cal can be seen on Dr. Moon's briefcase, foreshadowing her reveal in the next episode. So there you go. Wink, wink, nod, nod to people rewatching it. This story continues Moffat's theme of highlighting childhood fears, war in The Empty Child, Doctor Dances, monsters under the bed in The Girl in the Fireplace, statues coming to life in Blink, and now shadows and the darkness in this story. The Doctor's decree that Sundays are boring is a reference to the final story in the classic series Survival, in which Ace says the same thing. So the 10th Doctor would not like where Doctor Who is nowadays. He would be very, very sad indeed.
I don't like where Doctor Who is now. It annoys me.
Sunday's prime time.
I finished Doctor Who at 8 p.m. I don't want to then think, I'll work tomorrow. I want to have another day off, please.
Tough. The kids can discuss it the very next day at school now. No. It's good for the children.
No.
Think of the children.
I won't.
Why won't you think of the children?
And put it on a Friday. They can have the whole weekend to play.
That's true. Okay, fine. Well, when you take over, that's what you can do. You can convince the BBC to
straight away. That's my one sticking point to me even signing. I'm like, Saturday, I'm not joining. Sorry.
Okay, goodbye. Moffat imagines that River Song's squareness gun is the same one as owned by Captain Jack, having found it left in the TARDIS during her future travels. But obviously, this is open to fan interpretation. But that's kind of his.
I mean, she does, in theory, take his vortex manipulator at one point. Yeah, if that's to be his, but
just mix all the stuff.
Yeah,
it's a reference, I'm sure. This is absolutely hilarious. British newspaper The Sun got hold of the script and threatened Moffat with publishing it early. Moffat jokingly told him to do it, later remarking, "I like to see The Sun publish that many words in a day." Which is excellent.
Savage.
So I love that.
Look, they didn't do it anyway.
Yeah.
I can't remember, or at least I can't remember them doing it.
No, I don't think they did in the end. And probably not, because they get sued.
They get sued to hell.
Yeah. This is the first definitive foreshadowing of Donna's ultimate fate in Journey's End. Big F in the chat. A number of books in the library seen in the background include an operating manual for the TARDIS, the Journal of Impossible Things, and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Oh. So lots of little wink, wink, nod, nods there.
If only I could see them.
If only you could see them, because it's so bloody dark.
Yeah.
Stephen Moffat only told Alex Kingston and a few of the crew who River Song actually was. David Tennant had no idea how to act opposite her, and that ended up being to great effect, stating in the DVD commentary that he had the Doctor just assume she's a future regeneration of himself.
Oh, so what, like, well, I assume they must have told them wife, I guess.
Yeah, I assume so.
I mean, although that doesn't really play much of a part in her actual stories going forward, I can only assume that's what.
I think that's what would be relevant to her performance there, I think, because by that point, it's not really an issue that Amy Moore about. Maybe he said like, "Oh, you're the future companion I'm planning is your mum or something," but I don't think that's
the future
relevant
companion's mum. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh my. Okay.
Oh,
good.
Right.
This person you haven't cast yet. Good.
Yeah. I mean, they have cast, but not in the companion role.
Yes. Alex Kingston actually signed on believing River would only appear in this story and was delighted to learn of long-term plans for her character. You fool.
Now you're stuck in the role forever.
Yeah. I mean, she must enjoy it. She wrote a book about her. Well, I hope so.
I think have I got it? No, I haven't got that book yet, actually.
Ruby's Curse or something, isn't it? I think it's called. Available now from all your good bookstores. I mean, they advertised it like hell at the end of Flux on a couple of episodes, didn't they?
Yeah. So, I think it just come out. It's like, buy the book.
Buy the book now. Okay. Buy River Song on Big Finish now. This episode ended up running quite short, so Moffat quickly wrote in an extended version of Miss Evangelisa's death scene. So that's why a lot went down there. So that's good. Because it was a very good scene, so I'm glad.
Yeah.
Michael Gambon and Ian McKellen were both offered the part of Dr. Moon, but they turned it down.
They would both be. Oh no, to be fair, only Ian McKellen would be wasted in his role in Doctor Who.
Or maybe he just didn't want a live action part.
I don't care. Wasted.
Well,
he played the voice of he played the voice of Snow.
Yeah, they can use him again.
At least Michael Gambon was good in Doctor Who when he was in it. I really like him, but yes.
Anyway, Moffat was announced as the new showrunner in the week leading up to this episode being broadcast.
Smart, that is.
Clearly timed that quite well.
Yeah.
So yes, enjoy that, Doctor Who. Well, good. Originally, the idea for the story featured a little boy, not a little girl. It was swapped because they felt a little girl could be portrayed as more vulnerable, which is a bit iffy. But
I mean, that's the whole premise of Broadchurch is like it won't get media attention. They say in that it won't get media attention because it's a boy, not a girl. Only girls get that kind of media attention. And I think that, as gross as it is and unfortunate as it is, I think that is the case.
Yeah, sadly, that's the way of the world. Certainly in 2008.
Yes.
So noisy wind and rain in Swansea made it extremely difficult to actually have silence in the library, leaving the majority of the work to the sound department in post-production. Because
they'll be so stressed.
Really quite terrible. There's even a shot, you can see a boom mic in this episode over River's head, because they had to move them so much closer to the actors to pick up their dialogue properly without any other sound getting in the way, which is hilarious. So Doctor Who's hard to make, folks. David Tennant and Steve Pemberton, who played Lux, previously worked together on Blackpool, which I thought I'd shout out because Blackpool is an iconic show. These boots are made for walking.
Watch Blackpool. If you haven't seen Blackpool, just go on YouTube.
Watch some clips out of context.
Watch Blackpool, David Tennant, or something like that. It's great. Yeah. It's great.
It's madness. And then finally, this is more so that's funny how that worked out. River asks after Asgard in this episode, and Josh Dallas, who played Prince Charming in Once Upon a Time, appears as a node in this episode and went on to play the Asgardian Fandral in Thor.
There you go.
There you go.
I did make a note of I don't think we saw Picnic out, in terms of when she's like, oh, have we done this yet? Don't think we've seen the Asgard thing in live action, have we? But obviously we've seen the clash of the Byzantium.
I don't know if there's a book or a Big Finish thing about it. I don't know. But
probably. Well, we never meet Jim the Fish either, and that keeps brought up. But I think there might be something for him somewhere. I have a feeling that it was done.
I think there's a comic about. Yeah, I feel like I've seen something about
that. But obviously, we see the crash of Byzantium. I imagine that was something that Moffat earmarked as soon as he had the plans, because
probably.
It's like the fourth, not even that, it's like the third episode, isn't it? For series 5.
It's the fourth one, because it's the Weeping Angel one,
Yeah. Excellent fun facts. It leaves one thing left for this episode. What are you going to give it out of 10?
I think I'm going to go 8.5.
Same.
Hey,
look at that. Oh, that hasn't happened a lot in this series, I don't think.
No, it's always been quite close, but
I think I just
perfectly match.
I just really like this episode. I think it took me by surprise how much I enjoyed it.
I haven't struggled for negatives like that in a very long time, so I think that says something.
Definitely, especially after we sort of not necessarily had a couple of duds, but we had sort of episodes where we're like, okay, last week was fun, but it wasn't groundbreaking. I think this one was sort of, it's a Doctor Who episode that I think a lot of people remember fondly, and I can see why, which is fine. So that means that next week we will be on to part 2, which is Forest of the Dead.
Indeed.
So we'll see how everything pays off, if everything pays off. What are you sort of expecting and or hoping for?
I'm hoping to see Miss Evangelista's messed up face, which I remember looking
that
terrible.
CGI holds up.
Yeah, so I doubt that's going to be much fun. But there's a whole kind of thing with Donna, mainly, isn't it, in her own little world, meeting what's his face, her future non-husband, and everything with that, which doesn't go well for them. But it's fine, she doesn't remember. But I am looking forward to seeing how this gets wrapped up. I remember how things with River end up going, so that's good. I remember David Tennant being fantastic in particularly the last 10 minutes of the episode. I think he's really great, and I'm excited to see if the threat of the Bastion Armada kind of continues looming on, and if the other characters who did not get as much in this one get more of a chance to shine. And I think the main one for me is is the little girl stuff going to be worth it in the end? I think I'm looking forward to seeing that. So I really can't remember. So
no, I think I vaguely remember who she's supposed to be, but I just don't know how well that's going to play into why she's there, if she really needs to be. But we will find out, I suppose. But I think that's about it. Unless absolutely massive news breaks between now and next week, which you never know. Rumor mills are spinning like mad. We could get any kind of announcement coming up soon.
Ram from Clash is the 14th Doctor, so I'm sure they'll announce that soon.
Who knows at this point? So we'll
the Sea Devil is the next Doctor.
Oh, could you imagine? They finally make him a non-humanoid. That's what I would
love. A non-humanoid companion.
It would be great to have a companion that is not from the 21st century. I think that's my minimum, please, Russell. My minimum is no 21st, or have one, but have another one, But anyway, unless some big news breaks in the week, we will be back next week with, part 2. We'll see you then. Goodbye.
Bye.